So then we kind of wanted to transition into a how to have a proper practice. And I know, wow, that sounds really basic and whatever, but you'd be surprised like what a non-proper practice and a proper practice, the difference of how that can make you prepared when you get here or get to whatever your event is or something that you're playing, how prepared it will get you. And so once you're that prepared, you feel so much better day of. So much better because you're on there and you're just like, I'm stinking confident. Boom, I'm hitting all my parts and oh, it just feels great, right? Like who has showed up and you're like, oh, I'm not like fully confident. Like the day stinks, huh? You're just like, oh, you kind of dread it or whatever. Not fun. So proper practice. It looks a lot, I'm just kind of breaking down a timeline essentially of what it looks like. So first, and this is, again, kind of keep this in context of what we're doing here specifically. Now, it can work across the board for learning anything. But so first, we get the sets out. You usually hopefully have a set by like sometimes a month out. But there's always going to be at least a set like a week or two out, always. So a week before, always like to just open up the set and look at all the songs, take a listen to each song. Very important that don't go straight to your part. Don't be like, oh, I'm keys player, I'm going to go listen to my keys part. Don't do that. Go to the song and just get it. Just listen to the song, feel the vibe, just feel like the energy that the song has, the ups, the downs, just how all the band is feeling together. Get that. That's like number one important. Just feel this thing. How is this song all together? And just on our planning center is always like the fully recorded tracks, just the normal. Take a listen to that and if it's pitched down or something and it annoys you, well, just go listen to the original key of it so you can hear it normal. If it really annoys you, just do that because the whole point is to get a reference of what is this song, what is the message of it, like including not just the lyrics but the message of it through all the instruments and all the instrumentation. And while you're listening to that, you can then focus on like, oh, well, look at that guitar player, that part they're doing, that's kind of cool, even though you're a keys player or whatever. And it just starts to get a cohesion to happen. And then, so that will bring me to my point of make it a practice to be aware of others' parts. It helps create continuity and glues everyone together. If I'm aware of what the bass player is doing or I'm aware of what the keyboard player is doing, yeah, sure, I'll learn my part, but I'm aware of what they're doing as well. Then it's just like, I know the song better. I'm going to feel more confident because I know the song better, because I know what other people are doing. Not that you have to learn the part, but it's good to know what others are doing. Vocally, it's the same thing. If you're kind of hearing the other parts as like the lead singer, you're hearing the other parts, and you know, oh, well, that's what they're doing. It just allows you to kind of fit in better. So that would be a week before. Listen through all those songs. You know, get used to them, get to know them. You know what I do? I'll just kind of throw them in my car when I'm driving, and I'll just listen through them in my car like 2 or 3 times or whatever, and I'm just kind of sing along with it. So it becomes like, yeah, I just kind of know the song. I just kind of sing to it. Then it just kind of becomes a normal song. Second, about 3 days before, I'll then re-listen to the full song and my part. So now I'm taking my part and I'm just dialing that part in my brain, like what it sounds like, where it comes in the song. And now that you've already heard the full song, you have context for your part now. You're not like listening to it and you're like, well, there's my part. Is the chorus a full chorus or a down chorus? You already know because you have been listening to the song and you have the context of the song. So yeah, I do about 3 days out. I'll do a re-listen through, and as well as my part. And then 2 days before, I'll sit down with my instrument, or if you're vocalists, with your vocals, and I'll practice through each song, learning all my parts, and just committing them to memory. And yeah, I'll just be sitting down with that track, that split out track on Planning Center, which he will talk about later. But my split out part, just practicing to my part and just learning it, but committing it to memory. That's really important. So that looks different for some people. Maybe it takes some people longer. Maybe it takes some people to take notes to commit their part to memory. For me, it's literally I just have to play through it a bunch of times to commit it to memory. That's just how it works for me. especially if it's a new song. So then 2 days, 2 days before, and also during that 2 days before time when you're learning your part, if you're let's say you're a guitar player, right now it kind of only applies to guitar, but dialing in your effects and your tones and all that different stuff, like not only what's the part, what does it sound like, what does the delay sound like, all those different things. Taking the time to, I mean, there's moments where I'm sitting there dialing in a delay and I'm like, jump, jump, no, jump, jump, no, jump, and it takes me sometimes an hour. I know that sounds excessive, but to really get it right, because I want it to be right. And so that's important too, because it makes not only your part right, but it makes the whole sound of it right. So don't skip that step. That's an important step. And it's, like I said, mostly applies to guitar players. And then day of, so let's say it's a Wednesday or Sunday. Sunday, day of, it can apply sort of in the car maybe, but day of, if time allows, do a quick run through of each song, but minimum, and this is kind of like the minimum, re-listen through each song, mentally playing your part. And I know that sounds goofy and like, well, it helps me a lot when I'm literally like mentally looking at my fretboard and playing the parts mentally while I'm listening to the song. I'm not just like zoning and listening to it, but I'm like mentally playing my part through the whole song. So like on a Sunday morning, if I'm driving here, like, and for me, if there's a song I'm maybe struggling with, I'll listen to that one song maybe 2 times on my way here, just mentally playing the part on my way over. Now, if it's a Wednesday and you have the opportunity before service, yeah, grab your instrument, whatever it is, just do a quick run through of it all. So you have it, boom, it's right on the front of your mind, and you're just ready to go. So that's kind of a timeline overview of what proper practicing looks like.
Yeah. So one thing that you guys noticed is we want to make sure that you guys are getting material and getting familiar with stuff as early as possible. And the reason is not because we're like, but the reason is because you'll feel more comfortable the more time you have to let stuff ruminate. Like there's a real value to just sitting with something and feeling something, which is why the first step's just like, listen to the music. How does it make you feel? What parts make you feel certain ways? Cool, I'm going to remember this when I practice, so I match those feelings, then everything matches up. Because feeling is important to music. If you don't believe so, why do you listen to music in the first place? Feelings. So feelings are good. So feelings are good. So we want to have those feelings and let the music kind of inform how we're approaching the music. But the most important thing is really just like, I found a lot of times stress comes from a lack of confidence in the outcome. The number one thing you can do to eliminate stress is to work early and sit with stuff for a little while. So it's like, oh, I've processed through, I've let my brain get all the thoughts out so that I know, okay, cool. I know this is going to go a certain way. I've gone through everything. I've practiced a couple of times. I've had the time to ask questions, which is another super important thing. Like we want you guys to have the time so that when you come across a question, you can ask it, we can get back to you, and you can actually practice with that answer versus like, oh, day of, I noticed, oh, shoot, I don't know if should I use a triplet delay or should I try to sing this with a more aggressive nasal tone or a more soft subdued tone, or like when I'm playing keys, is this going to be the Rhodes or is this going to be a piano, or I hear this weird ARP synth thing going on, am I going to have to play that? We want you to know that so you can practice with that knowledge, and that helps you do what you're doing better and more confidently. So the goal is that you guys have time to think through that stuff and process it. So you're like, if it's Saturday on a Sunday, you're playing on Sunday. If that Saturday, like, yeah, I'm good. I don't even have to think about what's going on because I've already like super practiced. I can mentally play the parts in my sleep, and I have been for the past 3 days. So cool. Does that make sense? We're not trying to like be like, you have to practice and you have to know everything, but it really does help to feel confident. So when you walk out, the goal is that you're not so in the moment thinking about what you're doing on a like a mental note. Like so that you're not able to actually engage with a congregation as you're leading, because that's the worst when someone's just like shoegazing the whole time because they're trying to like remember what am I doing, and they're not actually looking out, and people are like, why is that guy not friendly? So, yeah, so that's what we found, and then so, Aaron, how long altogether would you say you spend learning a new song? A new song from like, hey, we're gonna play the song.
Yeah. Of course, it varies and depends on, like, if I'm learning a new song for lead guitar, and there's some of the songs literally they end up having a part in.
It's got a massive part.
Right, so they have a part in every section. Let's say, I'll end up. I mean, time ends up flying. I probably end up spending to dial in all the tones and then start to learn all the parts. I'll end up saying maybe 2 hours at least, and that's just like kind of learning it. I then have to go the next day and potentially commit at least another hour to like actually commit it to memory though, because there's a big difference in like learning the part but committing it to memory. And I will not go ahead with a song unless it's committed to my memory. Like I just won't. And so there's been somewhere like I struggled and the song was, whatever it was just difficult. Sometimes I'm like 4 hours later, I'm like, why am I still doing this on this one song? Like, oh, I'm terrible. But then like I ended up committing it to memory and now I'm like, whoa, wait, why did I have such a struggle with that? And so it really varies. Now if I'm, with a rhythm electric and I'm learning a song, most of the time it's like, I hear the song, I'm like, I already know how to play it. So it all varies. But I never skip the step of committing to memory. That's so important. So sometimes very long is the answer. Sometimes 3 hours.
So it's important to not have that 3 hours the day before, because if there's 4 songs you need to learn, that's 12 hours of time. It's like, I don't have 12 hours, so.
Yeah, and I'd say with committing it to memory, and of course, if you've ever done that, and you go day of, and you're like, you feel so stinking good, right? So you're like, wow, that was worth it. And sometimes when you think about really committing to memory, let's say even lyrics, for example, committing lyrics to memory, like, gosh, that's a lot of work, and I don't know, the more you do it, and it's just like the removing of like music stands. Like at first you're like, there's no way. And then you start doing it, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, wow. As soon as I took that crutch away, this actually became pretty easy. So the more you do it, it becomes just more normal. So for me to just commit guitar parts to memory now, it's like just become normal. And so now I don't really think of it as like a mountain to climb. It's just like, well, yeah, it's just what you do. So it just becomes normal. But you have to start doing it for it to become normal.
Mm. And one thing too, we do try. The reason we don't do so many different songs, but we try to focus on a couple songs really well, is because we understand that for each of you it takes time to learn a song, and we want to honor that. So we're not going to throw at you guys, 15 new songs a month and be like, learn all these, because it's like that is like 45 hours of rehearsal time for every person to get that going. So we do try to make the most of the investment that each one of you are putting in the music. And the other side is that the more we play stuff, obviously the better we get at it. And so we try to keep a lean roster for that reason. It helps everybody, helps that time pay off, and helps us kind of be more committed visually and energy wise too when we're playing a song, because otherwise, if it's something we're not comfortable with and we walk out, it's very obvious if like I don't know what I'm doing. It shows, especially with like a big camera right in my face. It's like he doesn't look confident. So that kind of helps eliminate some of that stuff. It also helps other people, they can sing along better. For vocalists, I know it's very difficult to remember a whole song, like all the lyrics for everything. So at the very least, memorizing just the choruses is a super helpful tool. I always try to remember, like, I should be able to pull out the first word of every verse, because I find like the hardest thing for me to do as a singer is remember the first word. So if I can just remember, like, pick a song or whatever, just like, the first 2 words. If I can remember the first 2 words, and I'll usually make a stupid like story about this song is da 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 da, and then da 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 da, and it's like the first 2 words of the first verse and the first 2 words of the second verse. That sentence will help me remember. Okay, I'm going to the first verse. If I can get the first word out, I know I'm usually probably fine. But at least knowing the chorus is going to be super helpful, because then it's like that's the part everyone locks into. You look super confident singing it. You can disengage when you're singing the chorus from like the back wall. Because even though it's not like that big of a difference, or like wherever your stage display might be, or if you have a music stand, that amount, I mean, if I was teaching the whole time and I was like this, even though there's nothing on here, just my iPad, but if I'm like the whole time, you guys are not going to feel like I care about you very much when I'm teaching, and the same thing goes for everybody. So getting off of your crutches by knowing what you can know is going to be super helpful for how you engage with people.
And one last thought on practice, good practice would be practice as though you're actually going to play it. That's huge.
Yeah.
I never, ever sit when I practice. I do not sit in my chair and practice my guitar because I don't play sitting, do I? I don't. So I don't ever do that. Now, do my legs get tired after maybe an hour or two of playing? Sure they do, but it's always worth it that and it's just a practice that I've made for myself, just to become normal. It's just, I practice like I'm going to play it. So I know this sounds super lame, but when I say practice like you're going to play it, literally, I'm practicing like I'm going to play it, so I'm in my room, and I'm like, woo, like playing like I just do, because like, the more normal that becomes, and like when that just becomes like, now like my body can't play without just like moving, because I do it when I play, yes, but I do it when I practice as well. And I mean, same if you're a singer, you can literally be 12-year-old in front of the mirror, like, yeah, doing it. Because it's okay to practice how to do that. If you're not willing to put in the awkward time of practicing that in your room in front of the mirror, then why are you going to want to be up here when you're in front of thousands of people? Like, that's, you know what I mean? If you're not willing to do it awkward then, why would it not be awkward up here?
The goal is public awkwardness.
And
that
so,
is the goal.
Yeah, if you can get to that point where it's not awkward for you in your room or whatever, trust me, it's going to become a lot less awkward once you start, like, when you're up here as well. Because it's just a normal thing that your body does now. It becomes a normal thing. It becomes like a muscle memory. And so, yeah, when I'm learning a new part, like I said, I will, to cut down on my legs being in pain, I will sit to learn a brand new part. I'll sit, learn it, da-da-da. Okay, now I literally move the chair. Now I'm standing to like learn my part, and now I'm like moving while I'm playing my part. So I have like this like 3-step thing I do while learning my parts, because I want to learn it like I'm going to play it, and that is so important.
For vocalists especially, because you're going to find the way you breathe is different when you're standing, and the way you breathe is different when you're moving especially. So if you're sitting, you're practicing, well, one, if you're practicing sitting down, you have no support. Even like when I do this, the bottom end comes out of my voice versus when I'm standing. So, but if I'm jumping like an idiot, I'm going to have less breath. So I'm going to have to think about that more. And that's kind of one of those things like, you don't think about till you're there, and it's like you're winded all the time when I'm leading. How come I'm so tired after the first song? Did you practice moving, or did you practice standing still? And so that kind of tells you, oh, I didn't actually practice my breaths the way I was going to do them. So I'm, getting to the end of phrases with not enough air, or whatever. So that's kind of an important thing too. Yeah. So if you're practicing, the order you're going to want to look at stuff kind of to go. He can speak more into this. I always recommend kind of start global and go local. So listen to the main recording first, always. And maybe if it, like he's saying, if it bugs you that it's transposed, listen to the main recording in the main key, which is going to be attached to the arrangement, not the key, because it's not in the key. But so listen to that first. Then listen to so that's going to be I go on the emotional tone of the song. Then listen to the, what's called the rehearsal mix, which is the one that actually has the click and guide in there. And listen to that for the structure of the song. And that's going to be the one that will tell you chorus 2, 3, 4, or whatever. And so like if you're not, oh, that's right, this one goes back to the chorus, that'll help you get the song map. And then when you're practicing, listen to the part specific one to learn your part. Then actually when I'm rehearsing, I don't actually rehearse to the part specific one. I rehearse to the drums one. And the reason for that is because it just gives you best timing reference, but my part's not super loud in it. Unless you're a drummer, then I don't know how to help you. But that's kind of the, well, drummer can listen to drum parts, it's okay, because they play louder than themselves anyway. So, but yeah, so that's the way I always go. Listen to the big one, listen to for my emotional tone and my context. Then I'm going to listen to the rehearsal mix for the actual structure and any notes on breakdowns and tempo and stuff. And that's most like what I'm going to be hearing during practice. So that gives me an idea of what that's going to feel like. And then I practice alongside my keyed, my instrument one, and then the drums one just because I'm crazy and like loud drums. So
that was it. That's all I was gonna say. It was just when you're done with your part, practice to not your part. So that, because I've noticed like if I do that, then I'm like, wow, I do so. Oh yeah, I did that right. Did it? I was like, oh wait, no, I actually just heard the track do it right, and I totally flubbed it. So that's super important that you get it back to like where you're not hearing your part super hot, so that you know that you're messing up. Yeah, that's good. That's really an important tool to use as far as like, well, stage presence, that's kind of the obvious one. Like, what do I look like when I'm up there?
This is not an egotistical thing, by the way. It's not egotistical to watch yourself back. Now, if you only watch yourself back, then invite your friends over to watch you watch yourself back. Then it ventures into egoism. But it's not. It's a wisdom to check how does something actually come across from a third party perspective of actually watching it online. It's not egotistical to look back and see how you're doing.
Or because we do like so much like underscoring and stuff, that's a good one to go listen back, because like there's so many times I've done stuff in the moment. I'm like, wow, that was cool. It sounded good. And then I go back and listen. I'm like, that was terrible. It sounded terrible. Why did I even do that? So then it helps me get more of a reference to then when I go practice. I mean, I don't know if anyone else does, but I literally will practice underscoring type stuff. Like whether the effects on my guitar or the different chord structures or literally different progressions. To me, that's actually a lot of fun. Now, I go listen to stuff I've done in the past to help me continue to practice going forward. Like, maybe I tried out a new progression. I'm like, man, that actually was no good. Sounded good in my room. Didn't sound good here. So that's another way to kind of use it. And maybe even vocally. Vocally, it's huge, because maybe you hear the way they do it on the track, and you're like, well, I'm going to kind of put my flavor into it, because it's me. And then you do it, and then you go listen back, and you're like, I shouldn't have done that. That flavor was too much flavor, yes. So then it helps you going forward when you're practicing to think, well, I'm not going to practice putting in that crazy flavor. I'm just going to dial it back a bit. So yeah, that's huge using the Facebook. And it's huge that we have that, just so you guys know. Awesome that we have that. So cool.
So one note, the sonic quality of Facebook is limited because like Facebook has to store a ton of video, and so they don't let us put super, super high definition audio up there. So know that it probably sounded better live than it does quality-wise. But the nice thing about the way it sounds is it does expose a lot of mistakes. So that is super irritating for us as producers when we want to create the most possible polished experience for everybody. But as musicians, to go back and look at it, it's a really helpful tool that it's so raw most of the time. And we're doing our best on the back end to try and figure out how to make it not as raw, but it is actually kind of nice. So from a quality perspective, the quality is not as awesome as like high definition, crossroadslive.tv video, but it is still a faithful representation of what actually happened, which is nice. You had your hand up.
Yeah, and it's a good reference point for how you look visually. Like for me, drumming, people rag on me because I look really serious when drumming, and so I had to learn to smile more. But it just gives you that good reference point for how you look on stage compared to how you think you're looking. Like if you think you're smiling, but then you look back and it's like, no, that doesn't. It's like gives you a good reference point to,
that's good.
How you should be presenting yourself visually, so you don't look like you're mad on stage. Or
Yeah, I had a similar issue where I thought I had like this guitar smolder, but I looked like a sociopath. And everyone was like, why is he so mad? And they're like, no, I'm just trying to be cool.
The young man, I haven't met him yet, but he does, I think it's bass, he's in the very back, tall. He's awesome, his presentation, he's smiling and he's getting into it, and I'm like, that's cool.
Mike? Red beard?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I haven't met him yet.
Mike's the best.
Yeah, I think it's
Everyone
Mike,
on
if you're watching on Facebook.
knows Mike is the best.
Shout out.
just saying.
Everyone here has a phone that can record video. I know that that's true. And so that is so easy to like, maybe you have someone like a family member that you like, hey, just kind of set that there or whatever. But that's such an easy tool. Who cares? Like, you might get the audio and you might be like, well, yeah, it sounds like it's from a phone, but it doesn't matter. You're still going to hear your mistakes, one. And two, you're still going to see what you look like. And it's very revealing to watch yourself do something like that. Very revealing. So if you haven't done that, yeah, even just a simple iPhone propped up somewhere or Android device, sorry. Doesn't have to be an iPhone. Propped up somewhere to take video of the service or whatever. Huge, yeah. So you kind of answered the question, to be honest, Mikey.
It's actually kind of fun. Every pew and seat is gently leaned back a little bit, and it provides a perfect angle of the stage if you just set your phone on the pew. It's kind of weird how that works out. It wasn't planned that way, but it's actually kind of awesome.